How we doing, friends? Been a minute. Been a minute. Well, actually, technically, it's been a week. We were last streaming on Monday, and now it's Monday again. Oh boy, man. The days start coming and they don't stop coming, as a wise man once said. And never has it been more true for you, boy, than, the last 2 weeks and the next 2 weeks. Travel, travel, travel. Travel to Ohio, travel to Las Vegas. It's going to be Orlando this week, and then DC for the We're Not Wrong live show after that. But the political news doesn't stop, and we got some stuff that we want to go along with you. Morning to everybody, and morning to everybody that I saw at Scoop Fest. Just a great time. Great time. Great people. Great time. Unfortunately, the highly conflicted Mikey Newman presided over a sham of a trivia contest, and the true champions can be crowned if Mike Pence has the courage to do what's right. That being said, it was a good time. I did not see the Northern Lights. They were apparently going to be visible over Vegas, but we couldn't see anything. And then there was a chance we would be able to see them from the sky when we were flying back last night, and we weren't really able to catch anything. So technically, we never lost the belt, because before the event, a brand new belt was presented. Ryer made an actual winged Pegasus with a diamond behind it belt, and so we never lost the belt for which we made famous. It came down to the last question, and I blame Eric Diddleman, magician, comedian, America's Got Talent contestant, because he joined our team last minute, and I blame him and the highly conflicted Mikey Newman. Yeah. So next time we will indeed take back the belt. But in all seriousness, Scoop Fest just an amazing experience. There are very few times. I love going to conventions. I love being a part of it. I love being part of the scene. I love seeing old friends. I rarely am jealous that there's an event that I didn't have a hand in, because I know how much it takes to plan a convention. It's a real pain in the ass. And so I always enjoy the dinner party, but I never wish I cooked. Scoop Fest, and in particular, the Jock versus Nerd Ball is the one exception. Because they have a moment at the end where everybody will come to the ball with costumes of bits that they've done on the show. And then there will be a winner to the costume contest. This year, the winner was a man who had a functioning milk leg. And I drank from the udder. Oh, the milk of life. It was amazing. It was good. It was. I just. It's one of those things. I'm like, oh god, that'd be so funny. It would just be amazing to do that and just have like 50 Captain Morgans. But oh well. We will. We move on. Okay. So I was actually about to watch a clip, and then I was like, you want to know what? We can watch. Oh shit! I realized I haven't changed the title of this stream. Probably need to do that. It is a Fareed Zakaria clip that has gone viral. Here we go. What do you say we watch it together, huh? Let's be a real Twitch streamer.
His election strategy was and thought it was.
And just watch shit on the internet together, huh? Boop, boop. Actually, hold on. This is the other problem, is that sometimes you guys are telling me shit in the chat. So let me bring chat on over here. There we go. All right. Here is Fareed Zakaria on Fareed Zakaria GPS. This was over the weekend.
Here's my take. When President Biden made clear he was going to run for re-election, I had a sense of what his election strategy was and thought it was an intelligent path to victory. After the chaos of COVID and Trump, Joe Biden would stand for normalcy and a rising tide of good economic news. Donald Trump would divide Republicans, with significant chunks of the party wishing that someone like Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis would be their nominee. Meanwhile, Trump would unite and motivate Democrats, allowing President Biden to focus on the votes of independents and swing states who threw the Electoral College to Trump in 2016 and to Biden in 2020. I have to admit, none.
Tito, can we count on your credibility and more? I heard you tanked it at Scoop Fest. Highly conflicted judge. Highly conflicted judge. All right? Highly conflicted.
This is playing out as I thought it would. Trump is now leading in almost all the swing states, but behind those numbers lie even more troubling details. As someone worried about the prospects of a second Trump term, I think it's best to be honest about reality. I understand that polls are not always accurate, but in general, they have tended to underestimate Donald Trump's support, not overestimate it. I doubt that there are many shy Biden voters in the country. The economy has been in a robust recovery for more than 2 years now, with unemployment hitting a 54-year low in 2023 and increasing only slightly since then. But Biden is getting little credit for it. The shift here is stark. On the question of who voters trust more to deal with the economy, Trump has a 22-point lead over Biden, according to an NBC poll from January. This marks a 15-point bump for Trump compared to the same poll in 2020. Perhaps this is because inflation is a far more pervasive problem than unemployment, affecting all Americans every day. Perhaps it's because people's views on the economy now are largely derived from their broader attitudes towards the candidates. But whatever the reasons, it's a stunning reversal in the midst of a relentless.
I mean, look, I know I'm in a very specific sector, the tech world, but you know, we took calls one of the last times that we streamed, and it was all about, my wife has been out of a job. I've watched what that job market is. It's fucking brutal. It is absolutely brutal. If this is not a recession in that market, I don't know what is. But it is crabs in a barrel to try to get a gig right now in tech. And so I don't know what that's like in other areas. I mean, I can tell you this: service in general has fallen off a cliff since COVID. Good Lord, it's hard to get good help in those arenas. But so I'll bet you there's probably a lot of people that are able to get those kind of gigs. But I don't know. There are economic indicators that say to me things are, including public polling, that say people do not believe this is a robust and recovering economy. They believe that this is a bad economy.
Of good economic news. On cultural issues, Biden and Democrats benefit from the opposition to the Republican Party's position on abortion. But on the other great cultural issue,
Spindash, it's easy to get good help if you pay a living wage. Well, I mean, a living wage is obviously variable depending on where you are and what you expect, to comprise a life. But wages have never been higher in the service industry in general. And it's just hard. It's hard. People, I don't know what, I suspect that there are larger cultural forces at work that are kind of putting us in that situation. And there are good jobs. If you want to work in the service industry, now is a very good time to do it. But this is not about, at least in tech, it's not about the money situation, because I know, at least in this house, we have had very frank and honest conversations about, we have not been declining offers because of the money. I'll put it that way.
Immigration, Biden is 35 points behind Trump as to who would handle it better. And I do wonder whether abortion will be as large an issue in a presidential race, given that reversing Roe v. Wade threw the issue to state governments and legislatures and not the federal government. Perhaps the most worrying...
Justin after Chipotle, how are people across the country not all shitting their pants? Look, I don't want to make this all about me, although there is the adage that, it's a recession when your neighbor loses their job. It's a depression when you lose your job. So obviously we all have our own lenses for which we look at stuff. But when we were talking about this the last time on the stream, it was call after call after call after call. We have not gotten a run of calls like that until people wanted to complain about how long they've been on the beach looking for a tech sector job and how brutal the job market is. It was one after the next, after the next, after the next.
For the Democrats is that far from being the more unified party, they are now bitterly divided over the war in Gaza. Bernie Sanders has said the eruption of pro-Palestinian protests could be Biden's Vietnam, and even invoked the specter of Lyndon Johnson choosing not to run for re-election in 1968 because of the opposition to that war. The analogy is far-fetched. America then was itself sending hundreds of thousands of troops to Vietnam, with more being recruited from college campuses every week. But there's no denying that the party seems more openly divided than it has been in decades. Only 33% of...
My demo is skewed to tech people. Yes. Is that a question? Is that, yeah, no, I think, yeah. My demo is skewed toward 22 to 55-year-old, largely white men that overwhelmingly are either interested or work in technology and are more into geeky or nerdy pursuits and entertainment. That's my demo. That's my demo. I'm just saying. Look, I'm not saying that this is. I'm defining anything. And also, I don't think is it controversial to say that the tech market is totally fucked right now. That it's people are getting laid off and they're not getting rehired at the same kind of speed. Like, is that controversial? I didn't think that was controversial. Like, it, I don't know what that would be. And I was here to meet women. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that would be I mean, like I wouldn't think that, but oh, spin. Okay, so you're just looking to fucking troll. Okay, gotcha.
Said they approved of Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war, which is now opposed both by people who think he is too soft and people who think he is too hard on Israel. Meanwhile, Republicans seem to be uniting behind Trump. Whatever opposition he faced in the primaries has largely melted away. And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. A majority of Americans are skeptical that Trump will be able to get a fair trial, according to a CNN poll. And I haven't even mentioned Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Cornel West and Jill Stein, all of whom would probably take votes away from Biden. Things could change. Polls do suggest that were Trump to be convicted of a felony, it could shift votes in Biden's favor. The administration.
So this video went viral because this is about as lengthy a CNN monologue as you're going to see that essentially states the facts of the race that, to be totally honest, I agree with. I think there are a few minor things that I would quibble about in this video, but by and large, he's laying it out the way that I see it, which is you can say the economy's great all you want. You can point to unemployment all you want. People think the economy sucks. Poll after poll after poll. There are 10 issues that Americans care the most about, and repeatedly Donald Trump owns all but abortion and defending democracy. And in some polls, he's close on defending democracy. So abortion is pretty much it. But the fact that CNN is doing it is being, passed around and looked at as some kind of watershed moment.
Be able to pull off a ceasefire in Gaza and then a broader political settlement that gives Palestinians political rights and Israel diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia. Trump could always embroil himself in some kind of scandal. But trend lines are not working in Biden's favor. He needs to do something bold and dramatic to seize the initiative on asylum policy, for example, and reverse these numbers. The one that troubles me the most is on the question of who was the more competent. Joe Biden led Donald Trump by 9 points in 2020, but Trump now leads by 16 points in January 2024. That 25-point shift could be a reflection of people's sense that the president's age is affecting his capacity to govern. And there's very little that Joe Biden can do now to change that perception.
Yeah, boy. I'm trying to think if there's anything in there that I disagreed with. Let's see.
It's a 15.
I mean, the economy stuff, I think we already went over.
point bump for Trump.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, I mean, is it newsworthy when CNN does something that doesn't seem like out and out propaganda? I think it's better for them. I think it's better for CNN when they do that. I think it makes people trust CNN more when every time you turn it on, it's not a Donald Trump roast. As a small business owner and somebody who generally votes third party and somebody who absolutely disdains Donald Trump, I'm honestly considering voting for him in this time around. Well, the number one thing that people vote on is the economy. Number one, always has been. Keep the train rolling. It was bizarre being in Vegas, man. Vegas is the weirdest price town that I have ever seen it. Like, you have no idea. It's like every price is randomized. You get a stick of gum, it might be $20, but 4 drinks and a full steak dinner costs you $25. It's nuts because they still will have deep discounts to get people in to do things. Like, they still are a very competitive hospitality town, but the inflation stuff has definitely hit Vegas in a big way. I did not play a lot of the slots. I did come back. So Saturday night was the big jock versus nerd ball, and so everybody was up very late, very 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 late, and so I left around like 4:30. Of course, decided then was the time that I really wanted to play slots. Won $75. Went out the next day after the PX3 Extra and fucked around again and basically won my $75 back. So I was 75 up on slots. Fish sold out the Sphere with tickets being over $1,000 a night. Yeah, I mean, especially those first ones, they're gonna really go for it, and that's what you're seeing more and more. Is that like high end concert, Legacy X, bigger tickets, or even not Legacy X. Like you see, like Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift has to run arenas, and even not arenas, stadiums, and even then, she's cheapest tickets. What, $200? So how is the economy sunk? Well, look, if we take any kind of a data point and then say, well, prove it, tide goes in, tide goes out, and explain that, atheist. We can do it. You would say that there are more people that can afford $1,000 ticket, but if you look at the overall revenue for live touring, I would suspect that it's down. So you essentially have a fatter top class and lower down below, including, I mean, like, bigger names recently. Justin Timberlake's had a hard time selling tickets. Jennifer Lopez has had a hard time selling tickets. And, you don't see the pipeline of young talent coming up in the same way. K-pop's doing okay. I mean, sure, yeah, you got an emerging market of K-pop, but I don't know. I'd be curious to see that. I wouldn't want to make any kind of strident claims on everything being being down, but that's what my priors would be. I would suspect that by and large, live touring revenue's down. We have a booming bourgeois class. Well, yeah. I mean, you've got a declining birth rate, so that means that people that would otherwise be spending money on kids got to spend it on something. So fuck it, let's go see fish. Justin's tech friends. Yeah, yeah. That's I'm shocked. I have not talked to my friends that would be most likely to go to those shows yet, but I would assume that it was at least on their radar. Michael Cohen is testifying today. Again, the case against Donald Trump. Hinges on a man for whom everybody has hated at some point. I hear COVID created a small baby boom. Not our Michael Cohen. Our Michael Cohen, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign. He is not. We didn't talk about the Stormy Daniels stuff on this, but oh boy. Like, at a certain point, I'm beginning to believe that Stormy Daniels is mostly affected by what is best for Stormy Daniels and where the money is. I personally believe Stormy Daniels when the first stuff came out. I do believe that she had sex with Donald Trump. I do believe she got paid for it. And then I believe that post Donald Trump, there was a lot of money in breaking that NDA. So she did, wrote a book. Now it's back, but now the story is, that Trump blocked the way out, and it's more of a Me Too kind of thing, where before Stormy Daniels was saying this was definitely not a Me Too thing. Like, my suspicion, based on reading Stormy Daniels' recounting of it before, was that she wanted to get on The Apprentice. She knew that was a great way to get on The Apprentice. I honestly don't think it hinges on him or really the facts at all. It's whether or not, or whether there's a MAGA guy on the jury. It's obvious that Trump is guilty and slimy. Okay, so this theoretically is not just a American Idol vote your opinion about Donald Trump situation, right? Theoretically, it's a court of law. theoretically there have to be charges, and theoretically the state or the city has to meet the burden of proof to see whether or not he violated those charges. Now, I personally believe that there was a lot of squinting to get this to where it needed to be, which was felony charges, city felony charges. It is a city crime or a city charge for an underlying crime that was never brought. FEC didn't want to bring it. The city DAs didn't want to bring it. Alvin Bragg brought it. I do believe that these, because of the number of charges, are essentially, it's stacking. It was one crime, quote unquote, that has a lot more charges for each time that there was a piece of paper involved. And ultimately, at the heart of it is it illegal to pay somebody for an NDA? Is that illegal? So I think this is the most ridiculous of the charges. If I were to rank personally stuff that I think he violated the law on, the number one is the Mar-a-Lago docks case. Because I think his best defense on that is everybody was breaking the law. Why are you enforcing that now with me? That shows bias. But you can say that he broke the law because there was just a permissive culture of everybody playing fast and loose with those laws. But Mar-a-Lago docks, I would say, is number one. Then you get into January 6th, where, I'm just not enough of a legal mind to know where is the, novel legal theory defense, basically. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about that. Canuch, isn't crime stacking what the DA does? No. Charge stacking. So it's the difference between, if I get pulled over, do I get a ticket for speeding, or do I also get a bunch of other minor infractions put on top of it? One would be the state unfairly using their thumb to punish me. The other would be me, doing one crime. So it's like the issue here, two issues legally, as I've understood that. Number one, what is the actual crime? They're saying that he falsified business records, but falsified business records to what end? Everybody got paid. Nobody got defrauded. The DA's office says that it was in furtherance of another crime. That crime being an FEC violation. But the FEC never brought a violation against him. So it is just in the mind of the DA that they should have brought a violation against him. And so it is deception in furtherance of another crime. So that's a big criticism. And then the idea that, okay, well, if you're going to bring that charge, bring one charge, one felony count. But instead they brought 12 because he wrote 12 checks. Or no, it wasn't even 12. It was 6 checks, but he wrote it in his ledger. He accurately kept the business records. And so writing the check and writing it in his ledger were both falsified records. Those would be that's the argument. That is the argument on the Trump side, that this is highly conflicted. Do you think the delays matter less when you'll be 3-0 in cases against him heading into the summer? Hush money, E. Jean Carroll, and civil fraud case. I don't think anybody but dead on Biden voters even know E. Jean Carroll's name. And the civil fraud case, I think, has already receded from people's minds. The only thing that matters is Democrats being able to call him a convicted felon. That might matter. But even then, look, I said this on the show before. We saw it happen. We saw it happen during the primaries. Donald Trump being prosecuted is good for him. Good for him. It gives permission for independent voters to think about voting for him if they believe that his enemies are more unscrupulous than he was. The people that were offended when he said lock her up, turns out, are also offended if they believe that the state is going after somebody unfairly for whatever he is. If Trump was not such a crazy ass crook running for office, he would not be on trial. Well, Kez, it is the running for office part that I think that's his argument. His argument is if I were not running for office, I wouldn't be charged. So what does that say? That says the narrative that he is building is this is corrupt. If I just shut my mouth and went away, nothing would happen. I wouldn't be facing felony charges. 2 federal cases. 1 in Georgia, 1 in New York. I mean, let me ask you guys, honest question. If Donald Trump wasn't running for president, would he be charged? And let's just focus on the New York case. Would he be charged in the New York case if he were not running for president? Yes or no? The counterpart to that is, well, then why don't you stop running and the charges will go away? To which he would say, they're just after you. I'm in the way. No in New York, yes in Georgia, maybe the Docs case. He would have had to say that he would not run again when he left office and he would be left alone. I mean, yeah, but that is the description of a political prosecution, right? That's the literal definition of a political prosecution. Then, Kez, this is what I'm telling you. If he can effectively prove that, and if the country believes that, then he is going to be looked at more sympathetically than he would be otherwise. And he will be looked at in a fresher light by people who would otherwise not vote for him. Because people generally don't like that. They don't like it. They're just after you. I'm just in the way. That's something that I saw on Reddit first, to be totally honest. I think the Trump campaign co-opted that from Reddit and 4chan. Claire referencing Trump saying that anybody Biden announcing a munitions, the holding up of a munitions sale to Israel is a shame. And if you are a Jewish voter and you vote for Biden, you should be ashamed of yourself. If they do, Claire. So if they do, they will have to reconcile with their shame. And if 40 years of ingesting comedy written by the vast majority of which was written by Jews has told me anything, is that being raised by Jewish mothers means they're very well versed in shame. Very well versed in shame. So maybe it won't affect them at all. What are my thoughts on younger voters not voting for Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. on Palestine? I don't think that it's a statistically relevant voting block. Meaning, I don't believe that younger voters, which are very low propensity voters anyway, not voting for Joe Biden is going to lose him the election. Now, that does not mean that he can not lose the election beyond that. But I think that there is more political liability for him alienating voters that support Israel than there is in him alienating voters that support Palestine. There are just fewer of them by the numbers. Now, Annette Shanker Osario came on our show. She is a progressive strategist, and she said, while that may be true, the most motivated and highly likely to volunteer for your campaign are far more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. So you are probably doing more damage in terms of your grassroots support and your network of running a campaign by having this be an issue. And it also makes your party look like a total fucking mess because the Biden White House has no idea what to do. They did this arms thing, which is like the most mushy middle of mushy middles. It doesn't really even do anything. Israel has all the weapons they need to do to go into Gaza and to go into Rafah, rather. They've got all of them. The missiles that they would be buying now, and again, this is not aid, it's a purchase. The missiles they'd be buying now that Biden is holding up would be to replace what they spend now. But they have everything that they need. It's not like Biden is grabbing Netanyahu by the scruff of his neck. This is a hope that is twofold, in my opinion. Biden hopes that the Genocide Joe crowd says, oh, look, he's turning around. He's like us now. Joes, they're just like us. And maybe take the heat off him a little bit. But he also hopes that the pro-Israel side of the Democratic Party is not too mad because they understand that. And also, really, he's not against Israel. He's critical of Bibi because everybody's critical of Bibi. You know, a large swath of Israel itself hates Netanyahu. Some out now blame him for October 7th. Now, where Biden risks like a generational, I mean, he might already be generationally tarred on his behavior with Gaza now, right? For a generation of people, they just might remember Joe Biden, for as long as he's still with us, as being the, bloody murderer, the butcher of Gaza, right? If Yahya Sinwar is not dead by election day, dead or captured by election day, he will be looked at by Israelis as part of the reason why, if not the reason why. I doubt you listened to the fifth column when they brought on Jacob Siegel. At the end, they asked about Gaza and Israel. The interesting point was that what Biden is doing now is historically the standard operating procedure of the U.S., meaning the U.S. tells Israel they've gone too far. Not sure if every case Israel has ignored the United States. No, yeah, that's my read on it. Usually, the way things go is there is some inciting incident. Back in the day, it was suicide bombings or something like that. That died down a little bit after the aughts, but you have some kind of inciting incident within Israel. Or sometimes like a soldier, an IDF soldier is kidnapped into the West Bank or Gaza. And then there's some kind of military incursion, at which point the Israelis usually get about a week before the drum beat internationally is knock it off, knock it off, knock it off, knock it off, knock it off. And it gets so loud that the Israelis eventually knock it off. The difference is October 7th. October 7th was so coordinated, so violent, and so bloody that nobody in leadership in Israel would be able to survive if they did not execute tremendous retribution. And that's what we're seeing. How many more people do the Israelis need to kill to stop it? I mean, whatever. Sinwar and whoever else they see, or whoever else is on that depth chart, but probably one. If Sinwar, the head of Hamas in Gaza, walked out of his bunker and shot himself in the head, that'd probably be the fastest way we get to a ceasefire. Can we get some numbers? Well, actually, there was news on that. The UN revised how many people have actually died. because they found that the Gaza Health Ministry was overcounting. UN Gaza death toll. This was the news over the weekend. The United Nations has halved the estimated number of women and children killed in Gaza. The UN published the number of fatalities reported by the Hamas-run Gaza Ministry of Health. The government media office in Gaza and Israeli authorities provided a disclaimer below. The UN has so far not been able to produce independent, comprehensive, and verified casualty figures. On May 6th, the UN published data showing that 34,735 people have reportedly been killed in Gaza, including over 9,500 women and children and 14,500 children. But on May 8th, the UN published data showing that 34,000 had reportedly been killed, including 4,000 women and 7,778 children. The new figures show the number of identified deaths as of April 30th as a total of 24,000. The new data specified that 10,000 men and 1,924 elderly have also been killed. So, obviously, that is fucking insane, right? I mean, that is a wild death toll, and nobody can look at that number of that amount dead and have anything other than empathy, at least in my world. I have, that's my take. But it's also the reason why I say all the time, man, just don't trust shit immediately out of a war zone. Don't trust shit immediately out of a war zone. It is always like believe half of what you see and none of what you hear when it comes to war zone reporting, because nobody is incentivized to tell the truth. Ever. Doesn't mean how righteous the side, how evil the side is that you want to cover. They are all incentivized to move public opinion in their direction. That's it. That's the only thing that they care about. And by the way, it's the only thing they should care about if your point is to either win or survive a war. Killing two non-combative for every combative is pretty bad for the most generous and careful army in the world. I mean, I don't know. This is where we get into have at it, guys. It's a fucked up situation. It's a super fucked up situation because you've got an IDF that is conscripted, which means you have people that might not volunteer otherwise to be soldiers that have a higher rate of people doing fucked up shit, right? You're more likely to have a disciplined force of people that have volunteered to be there than those that don't, right? Israel runs a conscripted military, and so that's going to happen. You've got Hamas that keeps human shields between themselves and the IDF. And it's not even just Hamas. Like, you have multiple gangs, essentially, that run Gaza. And all of them are incentivized to keep people in front of them. It's a fucked up situation, dude. It's super fucked up. Are we debating whether military age teenage males are children again? I, I, I don't know if we're debating if they're children. I'm not debating if they're children. Maybe I watch too much TV, but it seems like we should spend in some spec ops to retrieve our hostages. I'm shocked that we have not seen more of talk like that. That there's 8 American hostages allegedly still alive. It's a fucked up situation for 1,000 years. I know. Fucking. That could literally be the last sentence of every holy text, right? Anyway, it's a fucked up situation. Yeah, the lady, the mother of one of the hostages was on Fox News that we put in the PX3 Extra yesterday, or this morning rather. Yeah, blows me away. Blows me away. Because also, if you're the Biden administration, that's another thing is they're kind of fucked up on it because that would be their sword and shield against criticism. Is look, we are going to be dead set against Hamas, a terrorist organization that we had designated a terrorist organization, until we get our hostages back. If we got our hostages back, we might be more incentivized to push Israel to a ceasefire. But as long as there is an American hostage that is still there, we will not in any way stand in the way of Israel rolling forward. That is a course of action they could have taken. They haven't. The only thing that keeps Jimmy Carter alive is hate fueled by the media not talking about the hostages. America did not agree to a ceasefire. America has been trying to negotiate a ceasefire for over a month, 2 months now. We've been trying to negotiate, trying to broker a deal. Hamas agreed to a deal, but apparently, this is the New York Times reporting that I forget the exact term. It was like a non-violent calm or something like that. Hamas read that as Israel withdraws their troops. And Israel was like, no, this is us stopping bombing. This is us stopping going into Rafah, but we are not removing shit. Remember the peace deal that failed because Hamas could not meet the hostage demand? Does that mean that they have less or more that have died? Did we ever get clarity as to what that meant and what that gap represented? Yeah, they didn't have enough live hostages. And they don't have enough live hostages. And so after that was admitted to, something that, I heard was the case back during the primaries, that Hamas did not have as many hostages as they were saying, that there were more of them that were dead. And this was before some of the most explicit bombing in Gaza, which means a lot of them just didn't survive being kidnapped and died. So Hamas was then negotiating to also give remains back, but who knows where that is. More have died, some from Hamas and some from the Israeli attacks. I'm less. I don't buy the bombings have killed the hostages stuff, mostly because that's pretty much the only reason why Israel doesn't just fucking bunker bomb the entire complex. So keeping hostages alive is like the number one priority for Hamas. So if people are dead, it is likely because Hamas has not kept them alive. Anybody who's staying alive would be the hostages. They are priority number one for Hamas because they are the only thing that is stopping a fucking daisy cutter from just, making all of Rafah a gigantic hole in the ground. Hamas never had all the hostages themselves. Well, that's the other thing is that people forget that there's multiple different gangs that are, Islamic jihadist gangs that are running through Gaza. So there's that. On the other hand, if a Hamas position is about to be overrun, there's nothing stopping Hamas from offing the hostages. Yeah, but they also, again, that's like you would rather kill yourself before you kill the hostage. If you're Hamas, like the hostages are it. They're the only currency that you have. That's the only reason that you are not seeing more decisive and more aggressive action from Israel. Like, because don't believe that what we have seen is the worst that Israel could do. Israel could do worse. Very easily could do worse. My arguments are wild. I don't think I'm really even making arguments. This is just how I see the landscape. If you care to disagree, then you can disagree. I don't believe that I am an expert on this. I am just a guy who is interested. I've been interested in that region for 20 years. So that is I'm a novice. I am just a beginner. I am a tourist of this kind of stuff. I have only paid attention to it for 20 years. This is not I am not foolish enough to believe that I know everything. I have been shocked with the confidence that people have discussed this topic. That is not to say that I don't believe that hostages have been killed in fighting. I don't doubt that they've been killed in fighting, especially if they were, being transferred or trying to move from one place to another. Like, Hamas would want to off the hostage in a situation. They want to prove that moving in costs hostages lives. Yeah, but you can only do that so much, right? And if you're dealing with poor medical, I mean, I think the one dude that they had make a proof of life video had lost an arm. I don't know exactly what the medical care is down there in the tunnels, but have I looked like I belong in the Middle East? Yeah, brother. Yeah. Everyone's a little bit afraid. Everyone's a little bit afraid. But I might be. I might be from the Middle East. You don't know. You don't know. Holiday Inn Express has to be killing it. Oh yeah, dude. The the Ramallah Holiday Inn Express has been busy. After they go through Rafah, then what? No, I mean Rafah is where they have essentially chased. That is apparently where the leadership is. You know, and again, if your point of view is that this is really just a land grab for Israel, then obviously this line of thought doesn't play within your view of this, and so Israel's stated objective is to eliminate Hamas, right? So what does that actually mean? Well, when we talked to Ryan Macbeth, he made the point that you have to essentially run through the vast majority of Hamas's population and not necessarily kill them, but at the very least have a greater sense of exactly what that network looks like and who's a part of it. Realistically, it means killing the leader. Usually, when you want to end an organization, it means killing the leader. And the leader in this case is the Gaza head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar. They are in Rafah. It is whether or not they tighten the noose. Yeah. All right. Well, we reached the Palestine point, which means we're gonna wrap it up. I got to get to work. Haven't done shit for the show all weekend because I was in Vegas, so I got to book guests. Who do you guys want on the show? I got to book guests today. Who do you want? I won $75 on a slot machine. A viewer Q&A pod. Yeah. Send in your questions. It's been a while since we've done that. Yeah, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. All right. There we go. I will see y'all later.